Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last day of Ignite, and welcome to the Build Secure Applications with Defender and Azure Network Security. I am Anupam Vij, Group Product Manager in Azure Networking.
Good morning. My name is Gopal Shankar. I'm from the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Product Manager as well.
So here's a quick agenda, which will give you a glimpse of what's coming up in this session. We're going to talk about how you secure your applications in Azure. Particularly, we're going to have a network security deep dive, and then we're going to have the Defender overview and the demo as well. So let's talk about why users need to prioritize securing applications. In today's era of AI, the value and sensitivity of the application data itself is skyrocketing. Every app is now an attractive target for the cyber criminals. What we see on a regular basis from an attack standpoint are the threats are always evolving, from DDoS attacks to the application layer attacks, to now even the data exfiltration, particularly with the agentic communication that happens in the backend. Security cannot be an afterthought. Security has to be baked in as you are thinking about deploying, migrating, or building applications in Azure. With some data points here, when you work with Azure, you tap into Microsoft's global security expertise and threat intelligence. Every day, our security solutions and 34,000 security engineers process around 100 trillion signals worldwide, block 4.5 million new malware files, and screen 5 billion emails for the threats. These signals from the endpoint, cloud services, and identity system give deep visibility into emerging threats and the attack techniques so teams can respond quickly as the landscape evolves. Microsoft tracks more than unique 1,500 threat groups, including 600 nation-state actors. Azure is central to this effort, powering Microsoft's own operations, 200,000 employees, 750,000 managed devices, and 98% of our digital estate run on Azure. Microsoft is customer zero, using the same platform and the security controls as our customers. Azure also supports one of our key and the largest workloads in the world, including Office, Teams, SharePoint, LinkedIn, as well as Xbox and the gaming studios, as well as critical workloads for organizations across industries. Security is a top priority across Microsoft, with ongoing investments to address the issues quickly and operate transparently. In Azure, we take defense-in-depth approach and build security and sovereignty capabilities into every layer of the platform, starting with identity. After all, we all start our workday with a login. Here, we deliver real-time access controls for users, workloads, and even AI agents. Then to secure our workloads, isolation, confidential compute, and secure management for secure operations. End-to-end access control and encryption protects data at rest in transit. Data residency controls keep data within your chosen region to meet the regulatory demands. Our approach to adapted layered networking delivers segmentation, isolation, and AI-driven monitoring. We have a full spectrum of digital sovereign capabilities. Together, this delivers the platform security that respects sovereignty requirements and the broadest regulatory and compliance coverage in the industry. With that, I would also like to highlight that the Defender for Cloud, which is Microsoft's cloud-native application protection platform, integrates really well with Azure, and it ensures that not only you are getting the security that you deserve, but you are getting complete visibility and transparency into the application protection that we offer or lack thereof if you are not using some of the best protections that we offer to you. With that, we would first go deep into defending the networks, and I will start with a few things here. Networking layer is the connective tissue of your cloud and hybrid environments. Networks are where attackers move laterally. A single misconfiguration or exposed endpoint can open path to the critical systems. As AI-driven workloads and agents scale, segmentation and adaptive control becomes even more critical. A few of the delivery challenges that companies face when it comes to network security is the flat network allows unrestricted movement. inconsistent isolation between on-premises and the cloud regions can cause significant exposure. Limited visibility into the traffic patterns and anomalies can lead to blind spots. And AI agents introducing new communication flows that needs monitoring, and the lack of that monitoring can expose your agents and applications to even bigger security exposures. Defending networks is about reducing the pathways for attackers and increasing the visibility. In Azure, we take a layered network protection. At high level, let's look at how Azure does this by delivering a layered network protection that adapts to evolving threats and secures your connectivity across the cloud, edge, and the hybrid environments. Using solutions like Azure Firewall and Bastion, you can segment or partition the network into the logical zones, reducing the attack surfaces. Also enforcing granular access controls. With Azure Network Security Perimeter and the use of the virtual network and the other services, you can do the network isolation to ensure that unwarranted checkpoints are not crossing your isolated network boundary. With Azure Firewall and Web Application Firewall, along with the DDoS protection, we offer the threat mitigation by inspecting the packet deeply, which we also refer to as the deep packet inspection. So not only we are at that point monitoring the packet header, but we are inspecting the payload of the packet to ensure that there is no vulnerability or malware that's in the packet. And lastly, but not the least, is the observability. All of our services and the products integrate with Azure Sentinel and also traffic analytics so that you get automated visibility with respect to the network flows that's in your environment, crossing your applications. But then you can also take automated agentic-based actions, either based on the workbooks that you can create in Sentinel or in the traffic analytics. This comprises of end-to-end suite or portfolio of the services to ensure that we offer a defense-in-depth experience for your applications that you are deploying in Azure. With all of that said, I would like to work or focus today on 3 key scenarios when it pertains to how you can protect applications in Azure. The 3 scenarios are protecting your applications from the internet attacks, which means anytime you expose your application so that your clients can connect, you have to expose it over a public IP. Public IP is an exposure point and can be abused for all sort of threats. So that's the first segment. The second segment is your applications not only has to take the traffic from the internet, which is inbound, but your applications also have to talk outbound from Azure to the internet. And that's what we also call as the outbound protection. Also, the applications have to talk east-west, which means they will talk to the other applications within your virtual network or across your virtual network. And that's also an exposure point. How do we minimize the lateral movement? And last is how do you manage your application securely when it comes to the remote access? Because you have to log into a virtual machine to manage your applications itself. How do you ensure that access itself is secure? So we'll start with the first one, which is protecting your applications from the internet attacks. So let's talk about DDoS protection. Now, before I talk about DDoS protection, I would also like to highlight that in Azure, we offer secure by default and secure operations and secure by design concept, right? Secure by default essentially means that Azure platform itself gives you the capability where when you deploy your workload, you are getting certain protections as part of the deployment of the workload itself. Azure DDoS infrastructure protection is a good example. Anytime you deploy your workload in Azure, the public IP is automatically protected by the infrastructure protection itself. But if you want protection specific to your workload and application, then Azure DDoS protection as a customer-facing product that we offer, that plays a role. So what's the difference? The difference is that when you deploy an application and that application has a public IP, for that application, we will automatically determine at what point do we need to initiate DDoS detection and mitigation if the traffic goes above a certain point. And the way we make the determination is we create DDoS protection policies for each of the public IP, which is unique to your application based on the traffic that application is taking as well as the number of virtual machines behind that application. The public IP could be an Azure Firewall. It could be a virtual machine. It could be AKS cluster. Doesn't matter. But what we do is for each of those public IPs, we define those policies. When the traffic goes above that certain threshold, we initiate the mitigation. And at that point, in real time, we detect what traffic is legitimate, what traffic is malicious, and we drop the malicious traffic, thereby ensuring that the application's availability and performance is not impacted. All of that happens automatically in the backend. And you, as a customer, when you onboard to it, you get full transparency with respect to the actions we are taking by onboarding to the logs and the diagnostic monitoring. With that said, let me show you a quick demo of DDoS protection in action. So what we are showing here is an architecture reference where the public IP is associated with the application gateway, and then the application gateway is protected by the DDoS protection. And I will click on the demo now to make it progress. So as I said, this is highlighting the policy threshold that we have created for that public IP. So automatically, we define the policy threshold that you as a customer can see through Azure Monitor. It's showing 200,000 packets per second would trigger the DDoS attack or the mitigation on that public IP. We are simulating a DDoS attack right now. The moment the traffic goes above the 200,000 packets per second, we're going to start taking actions against that traffic. Given its application gateway, the attack is the TCP attack. What we start doing is we start doing a SYNOD. We start sending a SYNOD challenge to weed out all the bots that are actually sending the rogue traffic. As we are dropping the traffic, you can see in near real time the amount of traffic we are dropping, the amount of traffic that we are forwarding. And on top of that, we also provide detailed mitigation report such that you get to know what kind of attack was there, who was sending the attack traffic, what regions the attack traffic was originating from, what IPs were involved from the attack traffic, were there like ASNs or routers in the path that were involved in the attack traffic path. All of that data is actionable so that you can take certain actions, whether you actually ingest all of that traffic in Sentinel, create workbooks, and make sure that there is no lateral movement happening, and block the same IPs that you see on the DDoS protection side in, say, Azure Firewall and Web Application Firewall. So that was a quick overview of how DDoS protection works in real. So I'll move on to another important aspect. So DDoS protection provides protection against DDoS attacks for any public IP and any application. But if you are deploying a web application in Azure, then our recommended solution is to protect your web application against the layer 7 application layer attacks using the Azure Web Application Firewall. Now, Web Application Firewall has managed rule sets, which is powered by our threat intelligence that gets updated on a regular basis, and it provides the top OWASP rules. On top of that, it's also powered by our custom rule engine, so that now you can go and create your custom rules like geo-filtering or HTTPS parametering filtering. We also integrate bot protection in our Web Application Firewall. And the bot protection is integrated with the Microsoft Threat Intelligence, which helps us detect the bot activity from the regular human activity. And the bot can cause layer 7 DDoS attacks. Bots can lead to like password phishing and different type of attacks. So we have all of that also as part of the Web Application Firewall. Now, Web Application Firewall can be attached, or has to be attached rather, to a layer 7 load balancer. That's how you actually put your web applications in place. We have two options there. The Web Application Firewall can be attached to an Azure front door, which is our layer 7 CDN, or it can be attached to a regional layer 7 load balancer, which is the application gateway. If you attach your Web Application Firewall with the front door, DDoS protection at the network layer is baked in. So you don't have to take any extra steps. But if you attach your Web Application Firewall to an application gateway, then you have to also enable the network DDoS protection. Now, what's the difference? Like, why do you need both Web Application Firewall and also the network DDoS protection? The key difference, and it's very important to understand, is the network layer DDoS protection only inspects a packet header, because the network layer DDoS attacks are supposed to be volumetric by nature. We cannot go and do the decryption of the packet. That's going to take too long. So the network layer DDoS protection is for the volumetric network layer attacks. The Web Application Firewall does the SSL termination. It inspects the payload. That's where it looks at all those malware and vulnerability in the payload itself, and then it will drop anything which is identified as bad. So with that said, we recently released a new capability on the Web Application Firewall, which is the CAPTCHA. And I'm going to give you a demo of how you enable CAPTCHA and how it actually helps configuring or securing your application. So the first page over here is showing the timeout value of the CAPTCHA. The default timeout value for CAPTCHA is 30 minutes. The minimum is like 5 minutes. It can go all the way to 24 hours. Then what you do is you go into the manage rules. And once it loads, the manage rules, you will see the bot rules. In the bot rules, you select those bot rules, and you can define the action as CAPTCHA, so that automatically, whenever Web Application Firewall identifies that there is a botnet who's scraping your website, then it can give a CAPTCHA prompt over there, and it can help eliminate all those automated bots. So once you enable that, then the next action that you take is you go to the custom rule, and there you create a custom rule with specific strings and the settings. For this demo, what we have created is we have highlighted the websites, and it will load in a while. So we have highlighted, like, what is the custom rule over here, and the value is the string, and in the value of the string itself, we are highlighting the website. So we created a demo website. It says like a checkout, and the checkout pages are really vulnerable to some of these bot attacks. And what happens is, once we do that and we enable CAPTCHA on that page, whenever we load that page, not only during the time of bot attack, but for the demo purpose, whenever we load that page, it's going to give you a CAPTCHA prompt. Unless you pass the CAPTCHA, it's not going to let you go through. So we click on the checkout page over here. We get the CAPTCHA prompt. There are two ways you can do it. You can either do an audio. For the demo, we are going to actually do the video over here. And then we have to match what's on the left to the right side. And once we do that, as you'll see, like, you're moving the mouse around over here. Once you do that, the page would load. If for some reason we are not able to do it on time, then the page is going to expire. It will give the 403 value, which was actually set in the original setting itself. So now, not only we provide that information, but again, as we said earlier, we integrate all of our security logs and monitoring with Azure Monitoring and also with Sentinel. So you can actually go and query information like, how many CAPTCHA failures were there, what kind of failure were there, what kind of, like, where the traffic was coming from, how often it happened, and all the error codes as well. So you, again, get like complete transparency with respect to the actions that we are taking in the backend, so that you can use it for your forensic purposes or also for the compliance requirements. OK. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So that covers the protecting attacks from the internet towards your application. Now let's talk about the outbound threats and the lateral movement and how we protect and mitigate against those. So for the outbound threats and the lateral movement, Azure Firewall plays a key role. Azure Firewall is a cloud-native stateful firewall as a service that provides the central governance and the protection of your applications across Azure. It enforces security policies across the VNets and the subscriptions with a built-in high availability and the auto-scaling. Now, for application protection, it filters both the network and the application traffic using layer 3 to layer 7 policies, and also integrates with the Microsoft Threat Intelligence to block malicious IPs and domains. It supports complete VNet integration, so covering inbound, outbound, and the hybrid traffic scenarios, and offers centralized logging, again, for visibility and the compliance. Now, I'll give you one example, which is like relatively recent. Back in May time period, we had a 𝗬𝗲𝗬𝗲 malware that infected a number of Windows machines. And within Azure, Azure Firewall automatically had zero-day signatures to protect against that malware. What was happening with respect to that malware that actually infected those Windows machines was it was trying to make the outbound connection to the internet, which is the command and control, and it was stealing all the sensitive information from those machines and sending it over to the command and the control. For customers who had firewall in the past, the Azure Firewall automatically had signatures to block that malware. That is like one use case scenario. But I'll give you another use case scenario because we started with the web application. The way it usually works is if you have a web application, our recommendation is for the inbound traffic, you need to deploy the web application firewall because it does the TLS decryption. Now, what also happens is certain times your backend clients in your environment or your application itself may have to initiate connection to the internet. In those cases, if you chain your web application firewall with Azure Firewall, it provides you a zero trust security model where the web application firewall will do the TLS decryption, It will inspect the traffic. It will run the bot rules. It will run the OWASP rules. Then it will pass that decrypted traffic to Azure Firewall. Azure Firewall will run its intrusion detection prevention system on top of that traffic. And then it will pass it back to the backend application. And the same thing happens on the way back, like when the application has to go and talk to the internet, it will go through Azure Firewall to ensure there is no malware or any vulnerability. That's an exposure point for your application. So that's how it kind of works end to end. Then few things I would like to highlight with respect to the Azure Firewall releases, and it's important because these are some of the most requested for features, mainly from the management and the operations, but I won't go through the entire list. Packet capture helps in terms of the troubleshooting. Otherwise, earlier, if you had to troubleshoot any networking issue with Firewall, you had to deploy your own VM, and then you had to run your own packet captures. Now it's natively integrated in there. And then we also offer the pre-scaling for the Azure Firewall, so that if you know or if you anticipate that you have huge load coming for your application, say it's holiday period, or you have a marketing event that's going to happen, you can pre-scale your firewalls. And then we also, explicit proxy feature is now also GA. With that covered, I'll now move to the next scenario, which is the secure remote management. Now, how do you manage your application? Usually, as an administrator, when you have to go and manage your application, you will log into the VM where either the application is running, say an IIS server, right? Or you'll create a jump box, and then using that jump box, you'll do the backend connectivity. The key challenge with the jump box is most often than not, or than we actually expect, you will use a public IP to connect to the jump box. Now, when you connect to the jump box, you use either RDP or SSH. And both of these protocols are extremely vulnerable to all sort of malicious attacks, particularly on the public IP. So that's where Azure Bastion plays a key role. You deploy Azure Bastion as a service, and then Bastion as a service will have a public IP. And then it will allow you to connect to your virtual machines, whether it's RDP protocol or SSH protocol, without having a requirement for those VMs to have public IP. So then the connectivity itself becomes seamless. So now, furthermore, you don't have to worry about the scale of the jump box, because we manage the scale of Azure Bastion in the backend. So if you need more connections, we will auto-scale it based on the settings that you define. Or if you don't need those many connections, we will actually reduce the scale itself. But Bastion ensures that when you are connecting to your applications or the virtual machines which is hosting the applications, then the connectivity itself is secure. On top of that, Bastion is also integrated now with the Entra ID. So if you are using Entra ID in your environment, then you don't have to manage any specific permissions. You can use the Entra's RBAC and ABAC models to ensure that only the right users who have the permission can connect to Bastion and the backend VMs. And furthermore, it also works with the just-in-time policies with Defender. So that kind of gives you a complete control with respect to who accesses at what time and who are those users. Further, Azure Bastion also offers session recording capabilities and audit logging. So audit logging ensures that you have full visibility with respect to who's trying to log into the machine. But session recording, when it's configured, it will also give you complete visibility with respect to what's happening on that machine. And you can dump the session records into the storage account. You can do the analysis later. So that kind of covers the end-to-end on how Azure Bastion helps manage your application securely by using a secure remote access. If you are using, say, for instance, the on-prem environment, you're connecting through ExpressRoute and VPN, then the Azure Bastion gives you full private connectivity as well. There is an option to deploy Bastion without having a public IP. And then your on-prem users can, using Bastion, connect to any VMs in the virtual network in Azure. So that capability also exists. So to kind of wrap this up end to end, I'm waiting for the graphics to load. So this is how end to end the security portfolio in Azure networking kind of works and shows the defense in depth approach that we take. Again, the way it is for you to protect your applications from the inbound attacks. It would be the web application and Azure DDoS protection, as well as Azure Firewall for threat mitigations. If you want to protect your applications against remote access attacks, right, then the recommendation is to use Azure Bastion. And there are a bunch of other services lined up here as well. Network security perimeter, I do want to call it out, which is kind of a firewall or a perimeter for connecting your applications to the PaaS services like storage account. And that is, again, very very important for the data exfiltration scenarios. You want to ensure that those services can only send data based on the requirements and the policies that you have defined. With that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Gopal, over here to talk more on the MDC.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, again. Thank you, Anupam. So as the next wave of Gen AI innovation approaches, it is essential to modernize the entire stack in preparation. So one frequently overlooked aspect is, during modernization or migration, is that cloud security is overlooked, right? It is therefore crucial to really understand security strategies and best practices that will help you to safeguard the assets that will enable AI capabilities. So in this presentation, we will cover how to secure applications using Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is our unified cloud security platform designed to protect applications, data, cloud workload, and DevSecOps, all into one single solution, serving as a comprehensive cloud-native application protection platform. It's integrated into Azure, as you all know. Microsoft Defender for Cloud delivers extensive security for all the workloads. As organizations modernize, it is imperative to embed the security solution in the solution itself rather than after the fact. So if you embed it, you get the security values as soon as you onboard it. So some of the key features that I want to talk about is you have the unified security monitoring, code to runtime protection, and also in terms of real-time threat protection. It is leveraging the Microsoft Threat Intelligence and also the generative AI. Microsoft depends on the Defender for Cloud helps prioritize critical assets or risks associated to the assets end-to-end and helps you to expedite any incident that happens in your environment. So therefore, securing infrastructure, applications, and AI workloads, this platform provides the full visibility, monitoring visibility, and also helps you to understand the context and maintain a robust security posture. So moving on to the next slide here, I just want to quickly cover, what's being provided with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Here is an overview of the extensive coverage that we deliver as part of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. As you see here, it is a very comprehensive coverage. It covers all stacks of the AI infrastructure, things like the standard compute to virtual machines to cloud data security as well as database as well as storage. So it is definitely covering all the layers, including the service layers we just see here. Now let's walk through some demo here to quickly show you the value that you can see as a resource owner you can actually do in the portal itself without going into the Defender for Cloud portal. 3 steps that I want to call out here, right? First, how do you really turn this on in your resource level? Second is how do you monitor and navigate, and some of the recommendations that is going to flow in as part of this best practices to make sure that you're taking care of them in a timely fashion. And then the third one is to how to actually manage any of those alerts that's going to come and could potentially cause an incident. So with that, I just want to move to the demo quickly here. So I do have a few slides, so let's do over here. So as a user, I can actually directly go into the Microsoft Defender, the Azure portal, and start searching for a particular resource. In this case, I'm starting with a virtual machine. I want to understand, what kind of security capabilities I have for this particular asset. So as you see on the blade left here, you will see a lot of blades. I want to get your attention on Microsoft Defender for Cloud. As part of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you actually can go into this particular blade and see if your resource has the service turned on. In this case, I can see that this is my virtual machine. I have my Defender for Service plan turned on. I also have some Defender for CSPM plan turned on, which basically helps me with the posture. So once this is turned on, I can see the alerts coming in. I can see there's a lot of recommendation. So as a resource user, I'm able to go here and act quickly on it. So let's take an example of the first one here. This is the recommendation that basically I see. And as a user, I can see that this machine should be configured periodically to check for missing updates. It's giving me a quick fix. I can actually go there and quickly fix it. Or I can create any of those workflows so that it will take care of it based on the workflow habit here. Likewise, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, you can see all the alerts that's coming very specific to this particular virtual machine. So I click on this one, I can see what the alerts are, I get all the details here, and I get an action, quick take an action on this as well. So it gives me a few steps that I can help to basically mitigate this, and I can also enforce some policy so that this doesn't happen again and manage this from there. Similarly, you have the same thing for storage as well. You all know that storage plays a very critical role in AI. We use it for grounding data. So managing storage is super critical. So here again, you come back to the storage that you're looking for, and then click on the blade on the left side for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You can see that I have turned on my plan for this as well. Because I have turned on the plan, I'm able to get the recommendations as well as the alerts around this. Very similar to what we saw from virtual machines. One additional call out here is malware scanning. Very important because I want to make sure that this is very unique to Defender for Cloud also. So you turn on this plan so that you're able to identify any of these coming in your environment. I get all the details. I can go quickly fix this. I can again enforce some policies around this, how to manage this proactively, and so on and so forth. And the last one here is around database. Database also plays a very critical role when it comes to AI. So again, I'm very curious about whether this plan is turned on for my resource. I come to the blade here. I check on that. I see it's turned on. I'm able to see all the alerts. So I'm able to take action based on what I see here. So with that, I want to hand off to Anupam. There are more resources. I highly recommend please take a look at that as well. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So we discussed about various services that help secure applications in Azure. And Network Security Hub is a new single pane of glass. So I'm not sure if you haven't tried using it. Go and take a look at it. The intent is that one place where you can go and configure all your policies across DDoS, web application firewall, as well as Azure Firewall. We have plans to add more services in future as well. So really cool attempt. It also not only allows you to configure your policies, but it also provides visualization with respect to where you may actually want to configure your policies and what's probably lacking from an application protection standpoint in your environment that would be interesting for you. So do go take a look at the Network Security Hub. Additionally, I do also want to highlight the well-architected framework that we continuously update. And in the well-architected framework, the intent is to share all these reference architectures based on our experience, our recommendations, so that you can actually leverage those. It's also part of our documentation and landing zone. So do make sure that you are referring to the well-architected framework as well. And do provide feedback. That's a way for us to connect with you all, right? So if you find there is anything missing or something is not accurate, do give us the feedback as well. And next steps. So we have another IAS security session at 11:30. So please go ahead and if you have time, take a look at that session. And additionally, feel free to look at the other recordings which were touching on the Azure security and various other security aspects as well. So with that, this is a wrap of the session. I know we are ahead of time, so I would take that opportunity. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask questions.